Imagine you finally land your innovative new product on the shelves of a giant retailer.
Oh, that's the absolute dream for any founder.
Right. Like picture the exact moment. You walk through the sliding glass doors of a Target or, a Best Buy, maybe a Whole Foods Market.
You're practically floating down the aisle.
Exactly. You navigate the aisles, you turn a corner, and right there, perfectly positioned at eye level, is the product you've poured your blood, sweat, and tears into creating for the last 3 years.
It's a beautiful thing to see.
It really is. The packaging looks pristine under those bright fluorescent lights. It's a completely vindicating moment. You feel like you've made it. You can finally pop the champagne, call your investors, and just sort of watch the passive sales roll in.
Yeah, that physical shelf space, it really feels like the definitive finish line of this grueling multi-year marathon. For almost every emerging brand, securing that national retail purchase order is like the ultimate validation of their entire business model.
But today, we're going to completely shatter that illusion.
We really have to, yeah.
In this deep dive, we're pulling from a really sharply written article by Johann Jacob over at Retailbound. It's called 10 Questions to Ask Before Hiring a Retail Product Launch Agency. And the harsh, undeniable truth this source reveals is this: getting your product onto the physical retail shelf is really only the prologue.
Right.
The actual high-stakes war is keeping it from getting kicked off.
It's a reality check that completely blindsides founders time and time again. I mean, they celebrate the purchase order, but they vastly underestimate the sheer unforgiving complexity of what it actually takes to move that product from the store shelf into a customer's shopping cart.
Week after week.
Exactly, week in and week out.
So we're going to distill the core philosophy you need to, fundamentally rethink your retail strategy. We're unpacking the 10 crucial questions you absolutely must ask to find a retail product launch agency that acts as a true growth partner, not just some flashy marketing vendor.
Because there's a massive difference between the two.
Huge difference. Okay, let's unpack this, because right out of the gate, the source makes this very deliberate distinction between a traditional marketing firm and a specialized retail product launch agency.
Right, so a traditional marketing firm operates almost exclusively in the digital ecosystem. Like, their currency is broad brand awareness, optimizing your social media engagement, maybe driving down your digital cost per click.
Getting you going viral on TikTok, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And that top-of-funnel work is valuable, certainly. But a specialized retail product launch agency operates in the physical, localized trenches.
They're fighting a ground war.
They really are. Their entire mandate is brick-and-mortar survival. They don't just want a consumer to, like your Instagram post. They want to generate consistent physical sell-through at a specific retail location.
It makes me think of, well, it's like landing the lead role in a massive Broadway play.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Right. Getting the purchase order and getting the product onto the shelf, that's just passing the audition. You got the part, congratulations. But sell-through, that's the equivalent of making sure the audience actually buys tickets, walks into the theater, and stays in their seats every single night for the entire run of the show.
Yeah, if the theater sits empty on a Tuesday night, the producers are going to replace you with an understudy.
Exactly. No matter how brilliant your initial audition was, you're out.
And the theatrical producers in this scenario are the retail buyers. And let me tell you, they are incredibly ruthless about their seating arrangements.
Ruthless is the perfect word.
Retailers do not view your product as a permanent art installation. They view their shelf space as aggressively monetized commercial real estate. Every single linear inch of that steel shelving has to constantly generate rent.
In the form of profit margin.
Right. If your product is just sitting there looking pretty but not moving, you're a bad tenant. They will evict you and slot in a competitor's product that actually pays the rent.
But, okay, I have to challenge that logic for a second. If I have an amazing, highly innovative product with a beautiful design, shouldn't it just sell itself once shoppers physically see it in the store?
You would think so, right?
Yeah. If the quality is undeniable and it solves a real problem, shouldn't that do the heavy lifting without an agency having to, hold its hand?
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of the modern shopper, which completely neutralizes this whole idea of a product selling itself.
Really? How so?
Well, the modern retail environment is an overwhelming sensory assault. When a consumer walks down a grocery aisle or an electronics aisle, they are bombarded by thousands of competing visual cues, aggressive promotional tags, and honestly, their own deeply entrenched buying habit.
They're just trying to get their milk and get out.
Exactly. They are operating on pure autopilot. An innovative product goes completely unnoticed because the consumer hasn't been educated on what problem it solves yet.
Huh.
You cannot rely on a shopper to break their own autopilot just because your packaging is nice. You have to force an interruption.
Which requires an agency to have like hyper-specific category experience. Which brings us to the first big question to ask an agency. Do they actually know your specific category?
Right, because you can't just apply a generic marketing template to every aisle.
I'd imagine launching a smart home device at Best Buy requires a fundamentally different strategic engine than pushing an organic, gluten-free snack brand at Whole Foods Market.
Oh, completely different galaxies.
Mostly because grocery margins are notoriously razor-thin compared to electronics, right? Meaning you can't absorb the same marketing costs.
The margin architecture alone dictates completely different playbooks. You literally cannot spend $50 to acquire a customer for a $4 protein bar.
Right, the math just doesn't work.
It doesn't. And beyond margins, you have highly specific seasonal buying cycles. The operational window to pitch a Q4 holiday tech gadget to a buyer operates on a totally different temporal reality than pitching a summer hydration beverage.
So if an agency doesn't intuitively understand the merchandising rhythm, the margin constraints, and like the shelf placement politics of your specific retail category,
They will burn through your capital before the first unit is ever sold.
that's terrifying. And that specialized knowledge really dictates their entire survival strategy. Because once you are physically on the shelf, the agency needs a tactical toolkit to actively drive that localized demand.
Yes, this ties right into the sell-through strategies you mentioned earlier.
Right. They can't just cross their fingers and rely on the retailer's natural foot traffic to stumble upon your item.
Proactive touchpoints are the only way to survive. The agency has to orchestrate this localized surround sound effect. We're talking about deploying precise, geofenced advertising, executing highly coordinated in-store demonstration events, and even creating educational materials.
For the store employees.
Yes, to train the actual retail floor staff so they know exactly how to evangelize your product to a wandering customer.
Let's actually hover on geofenced advertising for a second, because that perfectly illustrates the concept of interrupting the shopper's autopilot.
It's such a powerful tool.
It really is. We are talking about the agency drawing a virtual digital perimeter around a specific target location. When a potential customer physically breaches that 1-mile radius, their smartphone is pinged with an ad for your product.
You're planting the psychological seed right as they grab the physical shopping cart.
Exactly. And it bridges the gap between digital intent and physical action. But the agency's job is to orchestrate all these touch points so seamlessly that when the shopper finally reaches the physical shelf, reaching for your specific product feels like an inevitability, not a gamble.
And here's the catch. They have to prove it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because an agency can execute all those localized tactics, the geofencing, the flashy in-store demos, but they still have to prove it is actually working before the retailer's algorithms decide you're a bad tenant.
Right. It comes down to moving past the marketing hype and demanding the cold, hard math.
Which means asking for case studies and asking how they actually measure success.
Because a flurry of localized marketing activity doesn't magically translate into profitable retail sales. You have to demand case studies from the agency that showcase empirical, measurable results.
So no pretty campaign mood boards.
Exactly. You aren't looking for mood boards. You need to see historical proof of increased sales volume, successfully expanded distribution networks, and seamless transitions into new regional chains.
We are looking at the stark divide between what I like to call vanity metrics and sanity metrics.
Oh, I love that phrasing.
Yeah, like a million views on a flashy TikTok ad is a classic vanity metric. It feels incredible, the founder shared on LinkedIn, brand awareness spikes through the roof.
But does it move boxes?
Exactly. If a prospective agency is handing you a reporting deck entirely focused on impressions, clicks, or generic social engagement without tethering it directly to localized retail sales, the source identifies that as a massive red flag.
The biggest red flag.
We need the sanity metrics proving the business is actually financially viable.
In physical retail, those sanity metrics are absolutely ruthless. A competent agency obsessively tracks metrics like units sold per store per week.
That's the magic number.
That singular number is the literal heartbeat of your retail existence. They also monitor inventory turnover velocity.
Meaning, how fast is the product physically leaving the shelf and requiring a restock?
Exactly. They track retail margin performance and arguably the ultimate sanity metric retailer reorder rates.
Because if they don't reorder,
Right. If the retailer isn't submitting a second purchase order, your social media impressions are entirely irrelevant. The shelf is gone.
let's dig into that retail margin performance. Because if your digital customer acquisition cost outpaces what you actually make on the wholesale margin, you're essentially just subsidizing the retailer's foot traffic out of your own pocket, aren't you?
You are.
You could literally be driving yourself into bankruptcy while the agency pats you on the back for going viral.
The math is entirely unforgiving. If an agency doesn't deeply integrate their digital ad spend with the localized in-store key performance indicators, they are optimizing for the wrong finish line.
Yeah.
A true retail agency optimizes for profitable sell-through, not just digital noise. They understand how to isolate the financial impact of an Instagram campaign down to the exact lift in units sold at a specific brick-and-mortar zip code.
Just making sure your marketing spend doesn't cannibalize your actual retail margin.
Precisely.
But, perfect sanity metrics are beautiful in a spreadsheet. Physical retail, though, is inherently chaotic.
Oh, it's a mess.
The real test of an agency isn't how they manage a perfect plan. It's how they handle the inevitable logistical nightmares that erupt when you're moving actual physical atoms instead of just digital bits.
This is the operational minefield. This is where amateur agencies get completely exposed and where seasoned agencies truly earn their keep.
It reminds me of a high-end restaurant kitchen.
Okay, how so?
Well, the shopper, acting as the diner, only ever sees the beautiful, perfectly plated meal resting effortlessly on the dining table, or in this case, the store shelf.
Right, it looks totally effortless.
But behind those swinging kitchen doors, the agency is in the back of the house putting out literal grease fires. They are fighting with freight carriers over missing pallets, dealing with supply chain bottlenecks, and managing the fact that the store employee called in sick.
All while making sure that product reaches the shelf looking completely flawless.
Exactly. And so you have to ask them how they handle those exact challenges.
Because the physical reality of supply chain mechanics guarantees things will go wrong. Evaluating an agency means meticulously evaluating their crisis management architecture.
Because retailers have incredibly strict operational rule books, right?
Yeah, they do. How does the agency navigate complex shipment routing guides? What is the protocol when there is an unexpected inventory shortage and the retailer's automated systems start threatening massive financial penalties?
Wow, automated penalties.
Yes, chargebacks. They will eat your margins alive. And what happens when merchandising execution fails? Say, the store employee set up the cardboard end cap display incorrectly, or place your premium product in the discount aisle.
Add pricing conflicts to that list of grease fires. If you accidentally undercut your physical retailer by running an aggressive flash sale on your own direct-to-consumer website, that retail buyer is going to be furious.
Oh, they will call you immediately.
You are directly cannibalizing their sales margin.
And an experienced agency acts as the seasoned diplomat in that exact scenario. They absorb the friction between your brand and the retailer's buying team.
They act as a buffer.
They step in, protect your reputation, and resolve the pricing conflict or logistical headache before it damages the relationship permanently. They speak the retailer's language.
And they have to do all this firefighting while the entire retail landscape is rapidly shifting under their feet, which means you need to ask how they stay current. The source notes that leading agencies are actively attending the major industry trade shows, places like the Consumer Electronics Show or NRF Retail's Big Show. They have to master AI-powered retail analytics and, crucially, retail media networks.
This is huge right now.
Let's actually explore retail media networks, because this isn't just buying a billboard on a highway. This is paying to play in the retailer's own heavily guarded backyard.
Retailers like Target, Walmart, and Amazon now operate their own massive, highly lucrative internal digital ad networks.
Right.
A modern agency has to know exactly how to buy and optimize advertising space directly within Target's own proprietary app or website. Because here is the hidden mechanism. Retailers naturally prioritize and protect the physical shelf space of brands that actively feed advertising dollars back into their digital ecosystem.
So it is a closed loop of profitability for the retailer.
It absolutely is.
That perfectly bridges into the modern omnichannel journey, because the way we shop today is completely nonlinear.
Very true.
A customer might discover your product through an influencer on Instagram, go down a 2-hour rabbit hole researching the specs on your direct-to-consumer site, and then 3 days later impulsively buy it in-store at Best Buy, or maybe just order it for next-day delivery via Amazon.
They bounce all over the place.
Right. So the agency has to architect a totally unified message across all of those fragmented touch points.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, true omni-channel marketing isn't just about omnipresence. It isn't just about yelling your brand name everywhere at once.
Okay, what is it about?
It is about aggressively eliminating the friction between a digital impulse and a physical purchase. If a consumer engages with that Instagram ad, the very next step shouldn't be a fragmented Google search where they get intercepted by a competitor's sponsored link.
That's the worst case scenario.
It happens all the time. The branding, the promotional pricing, the geolocation data, it all has to synthesize into a seamless digital tunnel that deposits the consumer right at your product, regardless of whether they eventually check out at a physical register or an online cart.
So we are looking for a category expert, a data scientist, a logistical firefighter, and an omni-channel architect rolled into one entity.
A tall order.
It really is. And since this agency is acting as your crisis team, they are inevitably spending significant capital to orchestrate the strategy and put out these operational fires. If their pricing structure is opaque, those emergency fixes will bleed your budget dry before the retailer even has a chance to evict you.
Financial transparency upfront is the only acceptable safeguard. A brand needs to thoroughly interrogate the agency's economic model before signing anything.
Right, getting to the pricing structure question.
Exactly. Are they operating on hefty, fixed monthly retainers? Or do they offer project-based pricing? What are the blended hourly consulting rates when an out-of-scope logistical emergency happens?
Because it will happen.
Oh, it's guaranteed. And are they marking up third-party vendor costs or taking a percentage of your ad spend as a management fee?
If you don't understand the exact mechanics of their fee structure, you are flying blind. And that blindness usually extends right into how they report their ongoing results.
Yes.
You cannot just wait for an automated monthly email PDF to find out your product is tanking in the Midwest. The mechanics of their transparency matter immensely. How often is the data flowing back to you?
Is it real-time? Is it weekly?
Exactly. Are you assigned a dedicated strategic account manager who understands your business? Or are you just submitting a generic help desk ticket to a shared inbox when your inventory goes missing?
Communication cadence is the bedrock of this entire partnership. The speed at which an agency surfaces a critical problem and proposes an actionable solution dictates whether you keep your shelf placement or lose it.
They need to be on top of it.
You need a partner who escalates issues proactively, not reactively.
Which ultimately boils down to cultural alignment. The source emphasizes that this agency does not just work for you. They become a literal, strategic extension of your business.
They're part of the team.
The article actually highlights Retailbound as a prime example of why this matters. I mean, they operate in over 150-plus retailers across the U.S. and Canada. When you are delegating execution at that kind of massive scale, if your core operating values don't align, the entire machine fractures.
Cultural fit matters just as much as their technical expertise. You need absolute alignment on communication style, how they approach high-stress problem-solving, and their long-term growth philosophy.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, like if you are a scrappy, fast-moving startup accustomed to pivoting daily, and you hire a slow, bureaucratic agency that requires 2 weeks to approve a single promotional change.
Oh, you are going to drive each other crazy.
Exactly. It just won't work.
So what does this all mean? The overarching takeaway here is that hiring a retail launch agency isn't a transactional vendor purchase. You aren't just buying marketing services by the pound. You are securing a trusted co-pilot for a highly volatile, turbulent journey.
This raises an important question for any leadership team preparing to make this leap into physical retail. A fundamental misalignment in problem-solving philosophy, or a lack of granular transparency in budgeting, will cause a brand to forfeit their hard-won shelf space vastly quicker than a mediocre marketing campaign ever could.
It's the behind-the-scenes stuff that gets you.
Exactly. If you don't inherently trust your co-pilot's instruments, the plane crashes, regardless of how innovative the cargo in the back might be.
It is the absolute truth. Well, let's briefly recap the journey we've taken on this deep dive. We started by shattering the pervasive illusion that securing physical shelf space equals automatic, sustained success.
The prologue, not the finale.
Right. We explored the gritty, unforgiving mechanics of sell-through, treating retail space as aggressive commercial real estate that demand constant rent. We moved past the dopamine hit of vanity metrics to demand the rigorous sanity metrics of inventory turnover, localized retail margins, and reorder rates.
The math that actually matters.
We navigated the sheer logistical chaos of the omnichannel journey, and finally, unpacked the absolute necessity of vetting a partner's financial transparency and cultural DNA.
A rigorous vetting process, yes, but entirely mandatory for constructing a foundation of long-term survivability in an increasingly unforgiving physical retail landscape.
Whether you are an ambitious founder meticulously prepping for your very first buyer pitch, or you're just a curious shopper who wants to understand the invisible, high-stakes supply chain war fought every single day just to keep your favorite sparkling water or smart thermostat on the shelf, you now have a totally new lens on the reality of retail.
The physical aisles are not passive showrooms. They are highly optimized, actively managed battlegrounds.
They really are. And I want to leave you, our listener, with a final provocative thought.
Okay.
The source we dug into today provided the framework for what the brand needs to demand from the agency. Let's flip that perspective entirely.
Oh, I like where this is going.
If a top-tier retail agency is truly looking for a long-term strategic partnership, if they're putting their own hard-earned reputation with these major retail buyers on the line, what rigorous questions should they be asking you before they even agree to represent your product?
That's a great point.
Is your manufacturing supply chain truly bulletproof enough to handle a national rollout? Is your product actually differentiated or just copycat with slightly nicer packaging? It's something to seriously ponder regarding your own brand's true operational readiness for the big leagues.
Readiness is entirely a two-way street. A top-tier agency won't board a sinking ship no matter how much you offer to pay them.
So true. Well, the next time you walk down a store aisle and grab a perfectly faced, seamlessly marketed product off the shelf, you'll know exactly how much strategic maneuvering, localized data analysis, and logistical firefighting it took just to keep it from getting kicked off.
Take care, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.
Until next time.